Hey, it's Kara. You're watching Really Famous, where I have real talks with actors from your favorite TV shows and movies. Today, I'm talking to Julian McMahon. He's about to share some personal details, so you want to stick around. Good. How are you, Julian?
I'm so sorry I'm running late. I had a very odd occurrence. A bird came flying in my office area here, and first of all, my dog tried to catch it. And the next thing you know, I'm chasing the dog and the bird, and I tried to get out of here, and that took me about 10 minutes. So,
That is so funny. I love it. So, how are you doing in isolation?
um, gosh, it's been an interesting journey, hasn't it? I'm sure that everybody's kind of going through a similar kind of experience, and you kind of have to preface this whole thing with, all of these people that are doing these extraordinary tasks at the same time that the rest of us are sitting at home.
Sure.
Including everybody who delivers everything every day. And, you see the UPS guy or the FedEx or the UPS, PPS, or whatever. Everybody's kind of, you know what I mean? I just kind of,
Yes.
every time I see them, I'm like, hey, thank you very much for being so kind. But no, it's been an interesting experience. I mean, the whole thing started off kind of very fear-based, a little bit hysterical and a little bit scary.
Yeah.
And then, after I kind of got us all together, and I mean, my family all together, it kind of turned into something else. I kind of realized it was an opportunity to spend time with my daughter and with my wife that I probably won't get again, to literally, she's a college kid. She doesn't want to be hanging out with her parents all the time.
I feel you. I've got one of those too.
Have you got one of those? Okay. So it's kind of like this forced goodness in a way, and I certainly don't mean to make light of the circumstances that we're in, but it's really given me an opportunity to spend a lot of time with her. And I just, she's doing her college work and all that kind of stuff, and I hang on class. Her classes are so fascinating, by the way. I'm like,
Oh, really?
I'll go back to college. That looks like a way better deal,
What is she studying and where is she? I mean, obviously she's home now, but where is she home from?
She goes to in North Carolina, UNC.
Okay, great
Yeah,
school.
and she's studying. Oh gosh, well, she's doing a social studies thing. She's doing a art history. What else is she doing? I know that she was interested. I actually think she's picking up film and television, and she's picking up production for next semester. So she's got a kind of a mix of different things. The art history I'm actually kind of mostly fascinated with, but all of her classes are great. They're very conversational, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
What I mean? They're very kind of, they just sit there and everybody's chatting. I keep kind of wanting to pipe in, I want to say something.
That's so funny. I don't know. I mean, I'm kind of going through phases of being in the isolation. Like I was pretty good at the beginning, felt
Mm,
grateful, felt
mm,
appreciative for everyone who's doing everything that they're
mm.
doing. And now I'm just kind of like, okay, I think I'm getting a little stir crazy and I'm really ready to get up and go again, but it's not time.
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting process, isn't it? I mean, because I go, and it's also things like, I don't know about you, but I do things like, I get a little bit obsessive about reading the news and seeing what's coming and what's going and what things are going on. And then I realize that I'm reading the same kind of thing
Yeah.
over and over again, and I'm kind of digging myself into a hole. But, it's just, there's so many different kind of evolutions that you go through. Yesterday, it was a great example of a day. I was just like, what? I just want to do something normal. I just want us to go back to normal. And and in a way, I don't even want it to go back to normal. In a way, I kind of want it to go back to a better version of us, just because we've gone through this kind of whatever, process, whatever you want to call it, in regards to that type of thing. But like yesterday, I was kind of feeling a little natty about the whole thing, and I was kind of like, "Come on, man, let's get back to normal and whatever else." And then I had a phone call from a friend of mine. I heard this story, and I was like, "Okay, after that story, I'm just going to be grateful for everything that I have, because people are going through such kind of horrible situations and circumstances, and it's kind of nice to get a little kick in the pants to
Yeah.
say, okay, but you do have to live in your own existence at the same time, and your own existence is, I don't know, are you in your office or?
Yeah, this is like my office, which
Yeah.
also doubles as the dining room. So it's the office, it's the
Okay.
dining room, it's
You got
everything.
everything. Okay, all you have to do is, you don't have to go anywhere to eat. I like that.
Yeah, but the problem is that this is all.
Here, I mean, look, you know what I mean? We're kind of we're just kind of hanging out in living rooms and stuff. Yeah, so it's been an interesting kind of, as I say, evolution, and it's an interesting kind of emotional journey you kind of go on, isn't it? Because there's days where I feel like the planet is getting all of this goodness and we're getting this great time with our families and all of that kind of stuff, and then there are times when I feel very kind of, closed in and kind of boxed in, you know what I mean, with the inability to do anything or go anywhere.
So are you generally like an extrovert or an introvert, or what? Do you like to be by yourself, and like, do you recharge yourself when you're alone?
I do kind of have the necessity to have time on my own. It just kind of gives me time to kind of have some of my own mental kind of state, if that makes sense. But I'm a pretty gregarious guy, and I like being around people. But I think that kind of one begets the other. If you allow yourself the time and the space to spend with yourself, you actually kind of get the ability to communicate and be with other people a lot stronger and a lot better. It's probably the other way around as well. So, your ability to socialize also, if you're conscious about the whole thing, also gives you the ability to kind of internalize when you have that time to yourself.
Yeah, that does make sense. So, and you and your daughter get along pretty well, I take it?
Yeah, we're very close. Very
Yeah.
close. Yeah. How
So
about you?
I heard you say something at some point. I think I did a little research this week, and I think that you said that in an interview somewhere that you took some time off. I guess it was after Nip Tuck or whatever, because you felt like you really wanted to spend time with your daughter. Is that right?
Yes, I did. Yeah.
How did that go? Was that a weird transition?
Well, it was an interesting period of time. I mean, I took time off initially because I was just completely exhausted. I'd done the Fantastic Four movies and a show called Nip Tuck at the same time, and my schedule was just kind of bananas. I was in Los Angeles for half a week, and then Canada or Alaska or something for the other half of the week, and flying in between. And I guess the one good thing about it was the same time zone, but for a few years there, in fact, I worked pretty much solidly for almost 20 years without taking much of a break. And so I kind of, the Nip Tuck show and doing Fantastic Four at the same time, it just took a lot out of me. And by the time we finished, we actually did 8 seasons of Nip Tuck. So it went for a long time. It was long hours, and it was a very kind of, it was a kind of an emotional journeyed piece, you know what I mean? It was and it was also a no holds barred kind of piece that you were exposed consistently, So after doing that for a period of time, I felt like I just needed some time to kind of regather and reboot and do all of those kind of things. And then in the midst of it, I actually remember finishing, and I thought, what am I gonna do with my time,
It's a little scary too, right? At that same time.
It was a necessity. So it was just kind of plain and simple to me. The scary part came later on when I decided to get back into the business. That's when you kind of realize how much traction you've lost.
Oh, that's interesting.
Kind of restart that whole thing, which was really I wasn't prepared for that. I didn't kind of recognize or understand the levity and the level to which that was kind of prevalent. And
so, like, what did that involve? What was that actually like? So did you feel like, okay, now I'm ready, it's time to start up again? You call your agent, say, get me some jobs or whatever, and then it's just what?
So what happened was I after leaving the show, I decided to just kind of inject myself into my daughter's life. And I did everything. I was like the crazy parent that was at every, you name it, I was there. Every meeting, setting up the stuff for Easter, setting up the stuff for Halloween, run around the neighborhood with the kids, and and I loved it, absolutely loved it. Then I kind of thought, okay, is it time to maybe get back to work after a couple of years of not working? And it was kind of a bit of a graduation process. I had to go through different levels of, okay, is this really what I was literally about to purchase. I wasn't sure I was going to go back to the business, to be honest. I was about to purchase a cattle farm, and I was raised on a cattle farm. So I kind of thought, perhaps it's time to get back to the roots, so to speak, and kind of head down that path. I'm not too sure. I remember I would drive past sets and just kind of feel uncomfortable because, in California, you're driving around all these sets.
Yeah.
And I'd be like, ugh. And then I remember distinctively driving past one day and thinking, oh, I wonder what they're shooting. And it was the first time in years, literally years. And I went, oh, hold on, that's a change of, and it was literally right at this time when I was starting to think of this whole move in a different direction. So then coming back into it, I decided to kind of take it slow. So I kind of rebooted everything. I had new people managing me and new agents and all that kind of stuff. And I just kind of wanted to test the waters and see where it was at. And we had a few bites in certain directions, and I started working on different things. At that time, most production wasn't happening in Los Angeles. I mean, I remember shooting in Vancouver, and there were like, I think it was 68 productions happening in Vancouver and 2 in Los Angeles or something. So
yeah, I think that was before LA came back with the tax credits or whatever, right? So everything was in Vancouver. Yeah. And New York was starting up at that point.
Well, also Atlanta and New York was going big time. Everything was going to New York. I knew I couldn't go to New York and live because I just needed to be with my daughter. Anyway, so we did a couple of things, went to Australia for a couple of things, went to Vancouver, went to Georgia, did a few different things. And I kind of realized that each time I went somewhere that my daughter just didn't handle it very well. And so we kind of had a discussion, and she said, look, I'd rather that you were home. And so that was that. Then that became a decision. Okay, what do we do work-wise? There's nothing in Los Angeles. So I kind of, handed it over to the movie gods and told my guys, okay, I can't do anything unless it's in Los Angeles. And they were like, oh, that's great. So you got, 2 things to pick from. And then we got a call kind of out of nowhere from a Marvel production called Runaways, which was a TV series I did before I did Most Wanted. And they just asked me to come on board for it was a two-year period, and it was actually kind of worked perfectly with my daughter's kind of high school and then heading to college kind of period. And I said, we had this discussions about everything, and that was just so great. And I said, look, I really need to be with my daughter, and when she goes to college, I need support and being able to go and tuck her into college properly and do all those kind of things that parents are supposed to be doing. And they were really gracious about all of that. So it kind of worked out perfectly. And then she went to college, and the next thing I know, I'm sitting around. Literally, my wife would come in and find me sitting in her bedroom, and I'd be like, "Is she coming back soon?"
Aww.
And,
but wait, back up though.
What's that?
Back up a second though, because you said it was really like you realized when you got back into it that you had lost some ground. So, but it sounds like everything was easy and smooth. So what was?
No, well, it just wasn't kind of, the level with which I left at was kind of at the prime of my kind of, what do you call it? Certainly height of my fame, right?
Fame, celebrity,
sure. United States, celebrity, all of that kind of stuff. But also just internally in the business, your cachet in the business is a certain level. And my cachet when I left, it was very high, and I was getting some pretty fantastic offers to do things, which I had to turn down. And, I kind of came in thinking, I probably would be getting the same kind of offers.
Right.
Ridiculously so, by the way. I mean, once I kind of sat down with myself and we had a chat with myself, I realized that I was kind of not thinking properly. But, I kind of, that was a bit of a, it was a bit of an eye opener for me. It was a bit of, okay, how do I do this? How do you kind of kick this into gear at this time in your life? At this, you're not in my 20s anymore. You're not starting a career like a normal actor or performer does, and you get things and then you're kind of going. And I said, but I have to do that at this time in my life, just in a different fashion. So, I just kind of started pushing those things. And then I actually, when I was kind of working out what I wanted to do, I started thinking about network television. I hadn't done network television for a long time. and I kind of also was thinking about what kind of character I wanted to play. And I felt like I wanted to play a good guy, like just a solid good guy. And then I also was interested in, you know, the kind of constraints that network television have, as opposed to the kind of lack of constraints that cable television.
Yeah, much more structured and reliable. Yeah.
Very defined. It's come out of a particular, you know, cable's probably still developing, but certainly Nip Tuck was at the kind of forefront of the way that whole thing kind of moved, and how it, you know, we pushed those boundaries and we opened those doors and we did all of those things. And I kind of wanted to shut them all again and see what was interesting there with having these particular parameters. And so I had a few meetings over at Networks and whatever else. I really hit it off with the guys over at CBS, just a great group of guys and girls over there. And I just started reading scripts, and I was reading script after script after script. A couple of them I liked, a couple of them I was like, you know, a couple I didn't, and whatever else. And you're going to go through that kind of process. And then I got the Most Wanted script, and it was one of those kind of moments where you go, you know, you just really connect with that character. You really connect with the piece. I connect with the whole piece, not just my character. You know, the fact that you've got this great character, particularly with a relationship with his daughter, the whole family thing there, and then this unique kind of group of 5 guys and girls who go, you know, kind of on this road tripping kind of journey together every episode, and then it comes kind of back to this family kind of thing.
It's interesting too, I think, because the difference between CBS's FBI, like what do they call that one? FBI would be the what? Like the I don't know, the main FBI, right?
We call it the mothership.
Oh, the mothership. Okay, so the mothership.
You don't have to call it the mothership. You know.
So I've had a few guests or some actors on the mothership on Really Famous too. So, but it's interesting. So Jeremy Sisto was on the show. We talked. Last year, and Celia Ward, who's no longer on FBI, I guess, but she was last year. But like Jeremy's role, for example, so he's right there in that one area, but you in Most Wanted, you're in all of the scenes, like you're from start to finish, right? You're out there and doing it, whereas they sort of have separate teams for the mothership, right? People who do specific things. So it's a little more work for you, right?
Gosh, yeah. I mean, it's a lot more work as an actor, a lot more work just being on screen, a lot more work physically. You know, we're always shoving off to upstate New York, over to Jersey, onto the island, or, you know what I mean? Like, but that was kind of the fun of it. It's a road show, you know, and it's a road show journey that you take, you know, and I think that the interesting thing about it that I kind of recognized and I purposely, you know, took it. That was one of the reasons that I really wanted the part. But it was interesting once you kind of get into those environments, how much you realize they play a part in the show, and also how much they play a part in the way that you play the piece, you know, or the scene. Because you just, you know, we did a crossover episode a few episodes ago that aired a few episodes ago with the original FBI and ours. I call them FBI and call ours Most Wanted. That's how I kind of define the two. But we did a crossover. It was great. It was really fascinating going there and seeing the completely different environments with which they kind of exist. And Jeremy, I mean, I've been a fan of Jeremy's for a long time, but it's just so great to go in and watch Jeremy do his thing around that room with, like, you know, he's got like 40 guys that he's talking to and stuff. And he's got this whole thing going. He's got the pencil and
the thing in his ear.
And I'm just like sitting there going, this is awesome. This is so cool, you know. You know, as the character Jess, he couldn't be in a more uncomfortable environment than that space, right? And we talked about this a lot between Alana and myself and Jeremy when we were kind of trying to piece together the way that crossover worked with those 3 characters predominantly, because those 3 characters had a very strong background together. So they all came through the academy together, they all came through the business together, and they all made very definitive choices to go in different directions. Jess, my character, went on the road, chasing bad guys. Alana went more politically. So she's kind of the boss, and she deals with the political side of things. And then Jeremy's in his room that he kind of commands and works from on a, you know, consistent basis. So it was just, it was really kind of a kind of fun thing to experience that set. And then with ours, you get this, you know, because the environment is so specific, you know, so you're either out in the woods, you're out in the snow, you're in some weird hotel, motel, you know, back room thing, or you're in some, you know what I mean? Like there's always this kind of.
Yeah, so it puts you into that headspace, I guess. Big
the scenario just fits, you know what I mean? Like when you're there, like the episode that aired last night, I was doing some Instagram stuff on it last night, and the photography that we used for it was so particular to the individual that we're chasing. It was just so cool. We had this, the way we lit that, I didn't light it, the way the DP lit it was just this beautiful hue of greens and reds and yellows and this white kind of misty thing happening. And it kind of really, I mean, me and the DPs always talk a lot about trying to inject the kind of thematics of the piece in that particular script in the way that we shoot it, and in the way that it's lit, and the way that, you know, we even come into the room, and the way that that's photographed and everything. And I was just kind of reminded of how kind of beautiful some of that stuff was, particularly, well, actually all the episodes, because we did everything, but I just remember specifically because this is one of the later ones that we shot, but Ludo and I discussing, Ludo being the DP, discussing that lighting kind of stuff. And it just creates a scenario where you just don't really have to do that much, to be honest. You kind of just have to be there, and everything else kind of speaks for you in a way.
Yeah, it all works together. It's so interesting. And it is so different. I mean, when you took Nip Tuck, so that was FX, right?
Yeah.
So was that the first like FX series that was like at that caliber, or no? Am I getting it wrong?
You're slightly wrong, but you're not too wrong. So the show that came before it was called The Shield, starring Michael Chiklis.
Oh, that's right. Yes. Okay.
And they had actually won an Emmy. I think maybe a Golden, certainly an Emmy. I'm not sure about the Golden Globe, but they'd won an Emmy. And so there was this kind of thing happening in that FX-y place where it was like, what? You know, sure, are you sure? Are we?
Yeah.
You know, it was kind of, I remember my reps at the time were like, that you don't want to take this. I'm telling you, you don't want to take this. This is nobody knows this thing. They do reruns of movies. And then he won the Emmy, and the show, I think, won the Emmy as well. And then people went, oh.
Yeah, yeah.
You
and some of the best shows ever, have been on FX since then.
Well, then we also had, after that, we had Rescue Me. So it was the Shield, Nip Tuck, and then Rescue Me with Dennis Leary. Yeah, great. Well, no, spectacular show. And that was very specific. The guys who were running FX at that time were very specific about the model and the type of drama they wanted to create. And it was like a 3-piece, basically, of these kind of completely flawed gentlemen who were going through these emotional and struggle journeys and whatever. And that was the guys, Ligurio and whoever else over at FX, who have been very particular about what they wanted to do. They wanted to brand it that way, because they thought that branding it that way would attach an audience, not just to the show, but to the network. And
I think that worked, right?
Oh, absolutely, it worked. I mean, I remember sitting at the Golden Globes, and all 3 of us were nominated, and all 3 shows were nominated. And so it just created this thing, certainly publicly and audience-wise, but also inside of the profession of this is
respect,
something. This is something to take note of. And, you know, Dennis Leary has been around for a long time. Same with Chiklis. So there was this kind of great kind of wave of consciousness that came towards FX at that time.
Now, is that different? Was that, what's his name? John Landgraf, right? He was the one who did was he part of that too? Or was there like a change in guard, so to speak?
There was a change in guard because the overrider of FX is Fox. And Liguri headed off to Fox, and I think everybody kind of dissipated in everybody I think had come from HBO to a certain extent in this kind of HBO-y kind of world, and had come over to FX. And then the success of FX was just kind of too much to ignore at that point in time, and something had happened at the top of Fox, and those guys kind of moved over to Fox, and then John came in to take over the reins at FX.
Okay, because I guess at that point is when like the Americans came in, and then Fargo. I guess that was all like the second.
But there's also that Glenn Close show. What was the Glenn?
Oh yeah, Damages.
Damages, which was one of the first ones that he kicked off, and then the Americans, which is another fantastic show. Also, what's the what was that? Sons of Anarchy. I mean, just list after list.
Such good shows. These are like high quality, some of the best shows that have been on, honestly. And all on FX, which of course your agents and everybody else warned you, hey, this is a big mistake.
Don't do that. Don't go there.
So you can't listen to your agents, I guess. Is that kind of how it is? Never, right?
I hope they don't hear that, of course. I know I love them.
We'll cut that part out just for that.
Okay, thanks.
So what about the business? Like, what are some of the things that you've learned about the entertainment business? Like, because you went through different phases, I guess, right? Big time phases. And now you're a network, and then you were at that time then, and then you had your break. You almost got your cattle farm. So like, looking back, is that milk you're drinking?
Almond milk.
Oh, almond milk. Very interesting. So you just drink it plain, huh?
Oh yeah, but this is like a coconut almond milk thing.
Nice.
So, it's coconutty and tastes pretty good.
Looks good.
Don't have any of the lactose issues.
Gotcha. So, sorry for the interruption.
No. I'm glad you picked it up.
Interesting. That's part of the thing that makes these like Zoom interviews or these Zoom things so interesting to watch.
A little bit more kind of at home, casual, kind of like, yeah, I know. I was surprised my dog wasn't gonna. I had to shut the door because my dog kept. Every time I came down to come and start the session with you, my dog just kept on coming in. I'm like,
yeah. Me too. I had to kick my dog out right before. I'm like, you're out right now. I thought she was going to start whining because we have like sliding glass or like French doors here. I thought she'd start whining, but sometimes I guess you see her off there on the rug just sleeping, but not this time.
Yeah. Okay.
But it's all good. It's all part of it. So so lessons from Hollywood. So like, if you step back, like what are the things that you've learned? What are some of the things that you get now that maybe you didn't get before?
Where do I start? Oh my God.
Anywhere.
I mean, you start pretty naive in this business because you start from a creative platform and you go, okay, well, I mean, look, I'm sure there's kids that came in their 20s and were already kind of into the business side of thing. In fact, I met some, so I know that exists. But for me, I was a kid from Sydney who didn't even know what acting was. I mean, I literally didn't understand what it was. Like I watched movies and stuff, but I didn't know that they went and shot them, or you know what I mean? Like I was a rugby player and a rower and an Army cadet guy, and I worked on the farm, and you know what I mean? Like it just wasn't kind of part of my psyche.
Yeah.
So I was just ridiculously naive. And but I came into it very kind of creative. I really wanted to be a really good actor. And so it was all about craft, and it was all about learning, and it was all about, I did class after class after, and just kind of, and that was the kind of thing that fed it. Like it's almost like going to college in a way. And you feed, the material feeds you, and it feeds itself, and you grow and you learn and you do all these kind of things. And then all of a sudden a job comes along and you're like, this is what I'm doing it for, is to work. And then you start working, and it very quickly turns into the fact that it's work, and, so you have to be on time. I'm also very kind of, I don't know. I like working, and I like being professional, and I like, being dedicated and having a discipline and all of those kind of things. Like those things really feed my system, and I had to kind of fit the creative of that into the work of that. Does that make sense?
Yes, right.
Which are really different things. You know what I mean? I mean, they might sound similar, but they're not, because you're dealing with a schedule. You're dealing with people telling you where to go and what to do all the time. You're dealing with cameras in front of your face. You're dealing with actors who are not, we're not mucking around on stage over there with, the teacher critiquing you or whatever else. This is legitimate. People have legitimate thoughts and ideas of what they want to project and who they want to be and what they want to do. And they're all individual. They're not conglomerate, they're separate. You have to work with directors and find your way with that kind of thing, showrunners and writers and all of that kind of stuff. So, the learning curve is just non-stop. And I mean, I've made some mistakes and I've gone down paths that I went, what was that? And, and I've,
like what?
I've tripped and I've fumbled and I've gotten back up again and I try to, I mean, Nip Tuck is a great example of just immersing myself so fully in a character, right? And you can immerse yourself that fully in a character if you want to, sure. But for 8 years, it's like, you just don't know the difference at some point in time.
So what do you mean? You kind of take the character home with you?
Well, you take him everywhere. You don't, it's like that guy, he was hard to let go of, he was,
Yeah.
I don't know if you ever saw the show, but he was just he was like a force, you know what I mean? Like he was an obnoxious kind of, but then at the same time charismatic and at the same time caring and at the same time just bombastic and just like, that guy was out there, man. And it was hard to leave him behind. And because you also didn't have the time to leave him behind, because you start work at 4 or 5 o'clock on a Monday morning, and you finish it Saturday morning at 6 a.m. because that's you go later and later every day because call times get pushed and whatever.
Right.
And so, the only time you get to really be on your own is when you're sleeping.
That's tough. Yeah. Especially with somebody because that is such a strong personality to have to stick with so often. I would think it would be complicated to stay to be affected by that all the time.
And also just very kind of difficult energetically, right? Because every scene, I always used to say that, and pardon me for this, but this was what I would say, but he led with his groin. He led with his, do you know what I mean? Like he was a guy who just, everything was about sexuality and everything was about this kind of machismo, bravado kind of thing that he had. And he carried it very well and he was very good at it. But you've got to switch into that if you're not that. That's not the way that's not how I carry myself. And so to be in that, like 90% of your week turns into 90% of your month, turns into 90% of the year. Do you know what I mean? Like,
that's like disturbing. How did you do it? How did you deal with it?
I don't know. I don't know if I did. That's why I needed a break.
Yeah, you needed to shake it, I guess, at that point. That was probably a big decision.
And that's why it took a long time.
Yeah.
Like I needed a month off. It was like, I need a year. I need to literally just go. And it took me a long time to kind of come back to earth, so to speak. It really did. It was a struggle. And I thank God I had, my daughter and my wife, and I could inject time into that so that, the battles that were going on in the system were kind of, were being kept at bay to a certain extent, or maybe massaged a little bit to a certain extent, because I had a beautiful little girl to raise, and I had a beautiful wife to take care of, and all of these other things. But it was a tough journey.
So did your wife notice things too? Like, did she notice you kind of struggling with shaking off the character?
You could not have not noticed.
Oh.
there was absolutely no way you could not. I mean, everybody noticed. My friends, my family, my wife, who I'm closest to, and my daughter as well. And so, yeah, they all noticed. And so, which interestingly, just in discussion of what we were talking about before in regards to coming back into the business, I was very particular that I couldn't allow that to happen again.
Right.
I love playing characters, and Jess is a great character to play. Jess is the character from Most Wanted. But I wanted to be able to switch in and out.
Yeah.
And so I very kind of specifically created a character that I could switch in and out of like that.
Yeah, because that seems like, and again, another reason why, as great as FX is and these shows are, the network show and the character like Jess, for you for right now, seem like a much better option.
And
right?
It's just a kind of cruisier thing, you know what I mean? Like, it's just, if you take Nip Tuck as an example, you're like this,
Yeah.
And then, Jess is kind of he's a pretty even keel, although I do like to invest in the emotion of each episode, and that starts with we start every episode with a scene with him and Tally, his daughter, and I like to carry the emotion of that through the episode. And I've been trying to figure out I try to figure out each episode how to make that specific, so that you can whether you're conscious of it or not as a viewer, you're kind of understanding his investment based on the choices that I make in particular scenes. So for example, I'll do because you're working 16 hours a day, right? And so you go, if you put 100% into absolutely every second, that's getting back into Nip Tuck world. You know what I mean?
Right.
So you have to kind of be able to sit with it a little bit and let the camera do the work and let you kind of just be present. And then you have to pick your moments where you go, this is where we need to see that investment. This is where we need to see that emotion. This is where we need to see that characterization, or whatever that might be. And so you kind of pick your moments, and you pick probably, and I probably overpicked because I love going there, to be honest. I just know that the coming out is not that easy, and the repercussions can be difficult. So it's still an ongoing thing,
Yeah, you're gonna find a balance. It's a process. It's a process, not a destination. So
that's a life thing, isn't it?
It is.
Life is a great journey, right? If you're already at the end and you know all about it, then what's the point?
What's the point?
So everything is about, as we're going through this pandemic, what are we learning? What are we getting out of it? What are we gaining? Hopefully, what are we? What's the consciousness, the knowledge, the understanding, all of these kind of things. And that kind of is a part of the process of being an actor.
Yeah. So, all right. So you said, where do I start for a lesson in Hollywood? And I think you started with a pretty good one. So what about lessons?
I don't even know if I answered that for you properly. Did I answer that?
It's a process. The question is,
in Hollywood is, and then you've got to, it's a business. It's a hefty business. I mean, we're not mucking around. They're not mucking around. The guys who pay the bills, the guys who pay for production, the guys who run the agencies, the guys who run studios, this is a full-fledged business,
Yeah.
And I guess as a fledgling actor, I came into it a bit more like, well, isn't everybody just having fun? We all just kind of meant to. There's an element of that I like, and you try to kind of still have, you know what I mean? But the business side is one that you have to be very conscious of.
Right. Yep. And I guess that, right, as you're going into it at the beginning, why would you think that? But then that's the thing gets hammered home, I guess, or it has been hammered home over the years.
Yeah. And I mean, now I kind of love that side of it too.
You do?
Yeah. It's fascinating. I mean, even in my time off, I actually spent some time trying to develop things and do all that kind of stuff as well, because I had to do something a little bit kind of whatever. So I had some people approach me and said, are you interested in developing something for a while? Blah, 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 blah. Anyway, kind of long story short, it was fascinating. It was just fascinating. I mean.
So like as a producer, like to actually produce something new, what are you thinking? Well, give me some details.
Well, it was just an amazing process, because we had a book that some people who were high-end producers and whatever else had come to me and said, we think this would be a great character for you. Are you interested in it? So I read the book. And this happened a few times. I also had a documentary and a couple of other things, but this is kind of the strongest one because it went the furthest. and it was just fantastic going, you know, kind of, because I'd never been involved in the process of developing something into a script. So you got to find the writer. So we had to audition all these writers, and we were auditioning these great writers. And I'm like sitting in the room going, what? These
Wait,
guys.
how do you audition a writer? How's that happen?
So that is, you know, you get I'm not the one who sent them that stuff, but I'm assuming you would send them the book, and you'd say, this is the book, take a read, let us know if you're interested in converting that into a script. They kind of call back at some point in time and said, I read it, and I think it's pretty interesting, and I'd be interested in coming in and pitching to you guys. And so what they do is they come in and pitch.
So they pitch the story
They pitch their interpretation.
Uh-huh.
Right? And, you know, so you got all these great writers coming in, and every one I was like, oh, that's the one. Yeah, that was oh, that's the right guy. That's the, you know, it was just so cool to kind of be on that side of it and just listen to these great minds kind of create this world. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
And that went to the network and everything. And it was between us and another show. And as a lot of things do in Hollywood, it's such a funny business because I remember getting a call and they said, well, they're going to greenlight this show. And I was like, oh, this is just fantastic. And then within like 2 weeks, the head of that studio had gone and somebody else had come in. And so then our show got put on a, you know, 1 out of 2 kind of thing, and the other show kind of went.
Oh, that stinks. What's the other show? What got it?
I cannot tell anything.
Oh. Well, are you going to reshop this one somewhere else? Are you going to try to still get it going?
No, I think once you kind of go through that, I'm not sure. I don't know. I mean, you hear all these fantastic stories about things. You know, I went to the premiere of The Irishman, and I was listening to those guys talk about it, Marty Scorsese and Robert De Niro and whatever else, and you know, I think it was like 30 years they were.
Yeah, nobody would. I think nobody would finance it, right? Yeah. Nobody would buy it until Netflix.
So you never know.
Yeah, I mean, and I think there are other shows too that have aired and then been dropped, and then completely different places pick them up afterwards. So I think there is like life after cancellation or non-pickup or whatever you would call it.
Yeah. I know that is interesting. I mean, I certainly spent a lot of time on it, and I really loved the subject matter. So yeah, maybe, you know.
Yeah. What's the subject? Can you tell me the subject matter, or no? Is that top secret?
I'm not meant to talk about it. I think I was told at some point in time I'm not meant to talk about it. But it's about the kind of machinations of the kind of pinnacle of the business world. Like what really happens when you're at that top level, trading amongst, you know, billionaires and you know, dealing with those guys at that level. And it was a very kind of intimate portrayal or understanding of what it's like to be in that existence.
Okay. So what industry did you say? Is this entertainment or in a different industry?
No, finance.
Finance. Okay.
Business world. Yeah.
Okay. So I'm feeling like Billions or something, like sort of.
Very, very similar to Billions.
Okay.
A little bit different in regards to it was a more it was a single character driven piece, and it was a very kind of intimate kind of journey, if that makes sense.
Okay. Well, I like an intimate journey. I say you keep going with this. Plus Billions is a big hit. A lot of people love it. So that's good. But
I think actually Billions, now that I think Billions is one of the reasons it didn't get paid.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
No.
I remember having a discussion. I said, everyone's worried now because this Billions show is out and it's doing really well. It's pretty similar. And I'm like, oh, great.
Oh, shoot. All right. Maybe the timing wasn't right there. Maybe another time.
Exactly. I thought the shows were very different, but I mean, a similar premise, but very different because Billions, I watched it and a great show, but very different to what we were trying to accomplish. But
yeah. I like a show that really hones in on like the character, one person's experience. I mean, it's great to have ensemble casts too, but it seems like it would be a twist. So it would be a little different from Billions. So what do you watch? Do you watch?
I would like to, you know, at this point in time, because there's so many kind of dramas that are multi-character. It'd be really kind of interesting at this point in time, excuse me, in the business to actually go take that single journey. You know what I mean? That could be
Yeah.
that could be kind of an interesting thing.
Yeah, right. I can't think of anything right now that's very much focused on like a single journey. I can't think of anything. You're right. I think it's much more popular now, the others, so it would be refreshing. I can't think
If
of
you
any.
remember years ago, I don't know, you're probably a lot younger than me, but
I don't think so.
um, a lot of stuff was single character driven.
Like what? What are you thinking of?
Well, all of those old TV shows of the 70s, 80s, and 90s, usually it was a kind of single driven character, and then even a lot of films were single driven characters, whereas now it's become multi-charactered journeys that
Did
you take.
did you see that did you see Unorthodox? Have you watched that on
No,
Netflix?
no.
Single character. Oh, it's so good. It's a limited series, 4 episodes. I think it's maybe a few weeks old or something. I
Mm-hmm.
definitely recommend it, but it follows this one girl who was married and she left. She basically flees her Hasidic Jewish community
Mm-hmm.
and flees to Berlin. Very interesting and very
Mm-hmm.
well done. But yeah, that was a one. It was pretty much focused on her the whole time. Very interesting.
Mm-hmm. That sounds good. I'll check it out.
What do you watch? What are your shows? Do you have any?
What do I watch? You mean now?
Yeah.
Well, this whole thing has kind of created a thing where, it's a great time to be able to sit in front of the TV and do certain things. But I've kind of been backtracking a little bit. I hate to say it. But my daughter and I kind of decided to kind of go back in time a little bit, and we watched, for example, the whole Harry Potter
Oh, nice.
thing, which was
Yeah.
like literally so much fun because, firstly, the movies are brilliant. I mean, the story and everything, it's just absolutely fantastic. But to actually sit down with all of us, and we did it every night didn't happen every night in a row, simply because she had some studies to do and all that kind of stuff. But, for a couple of weeks there, every night to a certain extent, we were sitting down watching Harry Potter, and they're quite long, actually. They're all kind of almost 3-hour movies, so you can
Yeah.
separate them a little bit. But so we did that. In regards to TV, what do I watch? I watch one of my favorite shows is probably Miss Maisel. Aside from that, I'm not really watching much. We also went back and started watching the Pirates of the Caribbean movies, so we're kind of in the midst of that. I did watch the Tiger King thing. Did you watch that?
Yeah, that was one. It's funny because when you were talking about Harry Potter, that was what I thought of right away, because at the beginning of all this, like our whole family was sitting down and watching Tiger King together, which, I'm glad it's over. I don't need any more Tiger King in my life. But at the time, it was like nice that every night we'd be like, okay, it's time to watch Tiger
Yeah,
King.
you get a moment to sit down.
Yeah,
Another thing we've done too is we've had dinner together every night.
that's nice.
It's just been great because we sit down together and we converse and we talk about whatever. And how was your day? Mine was great. I was in the back room. Where were you? I was up in my bedroom. Where were you?
Did you go anywhere interesting? Yes, the backyard.
Living room. I went to the yard for a little while, pottied the dogs. Pretty good, actually.
It's funny. We sit down and we eat dinner at a dining room table with a big window, which, as you know, is this room, right? So there's a big window over here. And there's so many people that just walk now, right? But everybody's out walking, at least where I live. So dinner time is a popular time for them to go out and walk. And it's like, we can just sit and we'll be talking and be like, oh, wait, more people. Because normally we live in a neighborhood that's pretty quiet. So there's not a lot going on. So it's like, now all of a sudden there's that too. Like there's dinner together and there's watching people go by.
So you don't actually sit around the table. You all sit facing the window.
No, we're all around the table. However, right, we should probably sit like they do in France or something at a cafe. I love that.
On a cafe, yeah.
Exactly. I love that.
Move the table up to the window and you can say, hey, hi, there's people over.
Exactly. Create a bar, maybe we'll move outside when it gets even warmer.
Yeah.
I love that though in Paris, right? Like, or I guess there are other cities too where they just do that. They have a little table against the window of the restaurant, and then the chairs are all facing out, so everybody can just look out. It's like a totally different mentality than we have here in the U.S. Interesting.
Well, my wife and I go to dinner a lot, and together, just the two of us. and we travel a lot because of work and all that kind of stuff and whatever else. But, you know, as opposed to the sitting opposite each other, we always like to kind of get a table and sit so that we can look out. So that part of the experience is getting to, you know, kind of experience the people at the restaurant or the restaurant or the surrounding, whatever. And I enjoy that.
Yeah, totally. And now more than ever, right? Like that would be just to be able to be immersed in people. It's like the small little things. But that's one of the things that I think about when I really miss the way things were. It's like, oh, I just miss sitting at a cafe with a friend or two and just being in the midst of a lot of people. I love that.
That's one of the things I miss most. And, you know, it's funny because when I was shooting the show, and we started shooting last August, end of July, August, I really kind of haven't been out much at all. I think I went out to dinner like 3 times or something during that period of time through to March.
Well, that's a long time, really?
It's a long time.
Yeah.
Right? Because I just, you know, weekends were just recovery, you know what I mean? So, so I didn't get the opportunity, and I'm in New York City.
Yeah.
Right? And
Yes.
one of the best restauranted cities on the planet. And
it's right there for you. It's
oh,
right there, easy.
oh my God. And so I had this huge plan in my head. I'm like, okay, we're finishing. I think we're finishing beginning of April or whatever it is. And I'm going to rest for like a few days. And then we're going out. And we're going to go and eat. And we're going to sit at a bar. We're going to, you know what I mean? Because like the whole time I'm also driving around the city and I'm seeing all of these fantastic kind of environs. You know what I mean? Like
yeah.
Great little Italian place. I'm like, I would drive past and take a picture and go, well, I got to go back to that place. That's a cute kind of place where you want to sit and whatever else.
I can't believe you missed all that. And then you had to finish. So when did you finish filming? I guess before all this, right?
Before what?
Before everything shut down?
So we shut down in March, and we were in the middle of our second last episode.
Oh, okay.
Literally shut down in the middle of you know, shooting.
Yeah, shooting that exact episode in the middle of it.
I mean, we were, you know, I got a call from the guys, and they were like, we're going to shut down. I said, cool. I think it's a good idea based on everything I've been reading and everything I've been hearing. And, but I think we should, you know, shut down at the end of the scene, because this is going to be a big kind of jolt for everybody, and it's going to be difficult. So we shot this scene. I remember just sitting in the scene going, we're going to be shutting down in like an hour or 2 hours. And it was really, it was a difficult moment, because it was just, there was no kind of way to explain it. There was no kind of way to kind of really understand it. There was no, and it was finite. It was that's it. You know what I mean? Like, even when you shut down, normally it's like days, and you're kind of like, you know, people come in to clean out trailers.
Yeah.
I mean, doing all of these kind of things. And it was, we're shutting down now, and you can't come back. And that's it. And it was just a really odd way to do it. And, you know, there were a lot of tears and a lot of uncertainty, and people feeling like they didn't know what happened. And so it was a kind of a funky evening. And I can't remember why we got onto that topic.
I don't know either, but so what?
We don't remember everything.
But are you in New York still? Or you're in California, right?
No. I'm down in the Carolinas.
Okay. Hold on one second. I'm sorry. You're in the Carolinas? I did not know that. Hold on one second, if you don't mind. I just have a little.
No worries. I can see you up the top there now.
Okay. Let's see. All right. I had a little trial going on there with somebody else popping in. Cheers. So I'm doing with the Zoom. Basically, I'll give away my secrets to you. I'm just using the same link for everybody because it's easy. I just send the link. But if you want to separate meetings, then you really should have a separate link for each one that you only send to one person. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, sure.
So what I just had going on with somebody else getting ready to come in, but he's a little early. So I had to shut him out.
He wants to see how it all works.
Yeah. But it's also weird, you know, the whole.
Have you ever had that? You know, my daughter was telling me that random people were dropping into classes and stuff.
Yeah, I guess so. And that's what they said. The problem was also is that people would like Zoom bomb, right? They'd come in.
Yeah, that's what they call it, Zoom bomb. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
exactly. So I think they increase the security, but if I'm not setting it up that way, then I guess I'm not going to prevent that. So I'm learning from this.
Okay, okay.
Next time it's going to be a separate link.
We just had a Zoom bomber.
Yeah, exactly.
That's my first Zoom bomber. Oh,
A famous Zoom bomber too.
that was uncomfortable.
Yeah. So, what I was going to ask you though, so you were saying that you were in New York, but you said you're in North Carolina now? Oh, so is that where you live?
No,
No.
what happened was once we shut down, my wife and I decided to go into kind of a self-isolation thing, just based on the fact that we were in New York and all of that kind of stuff. And I'd say we're going to do that for 14 days just to make sure that we're both healthy and whatever. And about 10 days into it, we got a call from her school and they said, we're shutting down the next few days. And the kids have to go. And we said, well, can you wait another 4 days? And they said, no, it has to be done in the next 2 days. So my wife and I rented this huge van, because we had our 3 dogs. Everything was completely unexpected for everybody, but this was our experience. We had the 3 dogs, which was already a struggle, kind of getting the dogs from California. They've been living on a ranch ever since I've been alive. You know what I mean? And
wait, so you moved them to New York?
Oh yeah.
Oh, it's changed.
Yeah. And so they, 3 dogs in an apartment in New York City is like, you certainly don't want things to go haywire. And they did every now and then. It went a little crazy. But anyway, so we had to pack up the 3 dogs. We had to pick up our daughter. We were, obviously anxious, the fact that, who knew what was happening? Like, were we going to be able to get supplies? Were we going to be able to get certain things, whatever? So we literally packed up as much stuff as we could into this, one of those kind of, what are they, the Mercedes Sprinter van or whatever those things.
Yeah,
right?
I know those things, yeah.
And we got them to take out the seats, all these like 16-seater, all the seats are gone, and it's just dog beds and whatever else. And we just cruised down to the Carolinas, and we thought we were going to be here for 2 weeks, because at the time when we left, it was like a 2-week thing where everybody was going to figure things out, and we didn't realize that it would be extended the way that it has. And so we've been sitting in the same place for.
That's wild. So do you have a place? Is this your place? Are you renting a place or?
No, just renting a place.
Oh, that's so wild. So unexpected. So you're just going to stay there until further notice, I guess, right?
I'm just here, man. I'm just hanging. I'm just,
going with the flow.
The great thing about I love the Carolinas anyway. So, and the great thing about this area is it's a very kind of temperate climate. And you got the air quality is great. There's a lot of trees everywhere. It's very kind of peaceful. So, it's kind of a nice kind of contrast to kind of the craziness that's happening in the world right now.
Yeah, I see a boat behind you. Is it a beach? Are you near the Outer Banks or something?
Yeah. Have you been to the Outer Banks?
I have not, but it is a very popular place, and pretty much everybody I know has vacationed there. I hear big, huge houses, and your whole family and your biggest, all of your relatives can come in, friends and everybody else is what I've heard about it, but I've actually never been.
So my wife and I last year, right about this time, we spent Easter in West Virginia with my daughter, and then took her back to school. And then we thought, what are we kind of doing? And we, let's do something. We had been told about the Outer Banks many times, and we'd been like, I love parts of South Carolina and stuff, and I've been going down there for a long time. And we decided to head out to the Outer Banks. I can't tell you. It is absolutely spectacular.
Oh, really? It's beautiful, huh?
Oh, it's spectacular. I mean, we were a little early in the season, and we went to stay at a resort, and it was like hardly even open. You know what I mean? Like, like you couldn't do the things that you would normally do at a resort. Like there was a bar at the pool and stuff was closed. You couldn't get like things to land on the couch out by the pool or whatever you call it.
Right.
But it was perfect. And the beach was, beach goes for miles and miles and miles, and there was nobody else on it. And it was just this kind of wonderland of sea life. There were whales going past every day, and dolphins.
That's like a dream. Yeah.
Oh, it was just unreal. It was like, and we got to drive around a few places there, and it's so pretty, and it's really interesting because it literally is the Outer Banks, you know. So you've got the kind of end of the United States almost ends there, then you got this swampy land in between, right, and the Sound, and then you've got the banks, which are literally banks that just kind of sit outside, and either side is beautiful, right? So you got the sunset on one side, and then you got the sunrise on the other side, and it's really special.
Well, that's not a bad place to end up, even though I know it wasn't your plan. It sounds like a good place. It sounds like where you should have gone at the end of every nip and tuck season.
It's yeah, exactly. Probably every weekend, actually.
That could have been the answer if only you knew back then.
I had figured it out earlier.
So, all right. So this was fun, and I appreciate you taking the time to do this. We'll have to regroup like after this is over, and when things are, who knows how they'll be. We'll have it. We'll reconvene. We'll meet up again, but we'll do it like in New York City, in a cafe or something. We'll have a talk, and we'll put it up there as an update.
I love that idea.
That was Julian McMahon. If you like this video, please smash the like button and tap on the subscribe button for more talks with your favorite actors. And by the way, if you like this chat with Julian, you will probably like my talk with Tim Daly. You know him from Madam Secretary. I'll put a link down below in the description. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Thanks for watching.